He gave them everything until one lie exposed the truth. The calls stop, the house grows quiet, and suddenly, the truth is louder than ever. When tech billionaire Michael claims he's drowning in debt, his fiancée pulls away, his family panics, and the love he once trusted begins to crack. From lavish generosity to painful silence, Michael watches relationships unravel in real time. What starts as a lie becomes a ruthless test, revealing who stays, who leaves, and what real love truly costs. Hey family, welcome to Real Life Heart Stories. Please subscribe and give this video a like. It truly means the world to us. Don't forget to share it with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thank you so much for the support. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. Michael slammed his laptop shut as applause filled the glass-walled boardroom, the sound sharp and sudden, like the end of a long race. "We did it," one of the executives said, standing up. Michael rose slowly, adjusting his sleeves, his face calm even though his chest was heavy with exhaustion. Another deal closed, another victory. As everyone congratulated him, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He didn't need to check the name. He already knew. Still, he glanced down. Daniel. His elder brother had perfect timing. Michael excused himself and stepped into the hallway. "Hello, bro." Daniel's voice boomed. "I heard the news. Congratulations. Listen, I found a new supplier for the supermarket, but I'll need some extra cash to move fast." Michael closed his eyes briefly and leaned against the wall. "We'll talk," he said gently. He wasn't angry. This was normal. This was his life. Ever since he became successful, celebrations came with requests, and silence came with peace only when his phone battery died. On his drive home, Michael's mind drifted backward. When he made his first big money, Daniel had come to him with a dream. "Just a small supermarket," he had said. "Nothing fancy." Michael sent $8 million without hesitation. When his elder sister Susan cried about wanting a bakery, he sent $3 million, paid rent, bought equipment, and even hired a consultant. When Clara, his girlfriend, struggled through school, Michael took care of everything: tuition, books, housing, until she earned her PhD. He never complained. He never kept count. Their happiness made him feel fulfilled. They called him generous. They called him a blessing. They said, "We are lucky to have you." Michael believed that was love. He believed family meant giving until it hurt and then giving more. As he parked his car and walked into his quiet apartment, his phone buzzed again. Another request, another need. He smiled faintly, unaware that this habit of giving without limits was slowly planting a dangerous question in his heart. Michael quickly realized that giving once was never enough. One favor always opened the door to the next. Daniel's small supermarket grew into 2 branches, and with every expansion came another phone call. "Bro, sales are slow this month," Daniel would say casually. "If I add one more freezer, things will improve." Michael sent the money. Susan's bakery followed the same pattern. "The oven broke. The staff needs salary. Customers want new packaging." Each call ended with a promise that things would soon stabilize, and Michael believed them every time. He wanted to believe them. Even Clara, now deep into her doctoral studies, never worried about money. "I couldn't have done this without you," she often said, holding his hand. Those words made him feel proud. He worked harder, slept less, and told himself that love meant sacrifice. Whenever he tried to rest, his phone buzzed. Whenever he tried to breathe, someone needed him. Yet he never thought to say no. Slowly, small things began to bother him. His birthday passed with only quick messages sent hours late, followed immediately by reminders of unpaid bills. When he stopped calling first, days passed before anyone noticed. One evening, sitting across from Clara at dinner, Michael said quietly, "Do you think people would still be here if I wasn't successful?" Clara laughed lightly, not looking up from her phone. "Why would you even think like that?" she replied. "You're always working. You stress yourself too much." The conversation ended there. Another time, Michael delayed sending money to Daniel just to see what would happen. Instead of asking how he was, Daniel snapped, "What's going on?" I'm counting on you. Susan's concern was the same. I hope you're not forgetting us, she said. That sentence stayed with him. Forgetting them. No one ever asked if he was tired, lonely, or overwhelmed. That night, Michael sat alone on his balcony. City lights glowing below, scrolling through his call history. Dozens of calls. All about money. None about him. A quiet ache settled in his chest, and a thought he didn't want to accept whispered again. Am I loved, or am I useful? If this moment feels familiar, comment below, because many people live this reality without realizing it. Michael tried to silence the thoughts, but they followed him everywhere. At work, during meetings, even while driving, the same questions kept repeating in his mind. If I lose everything, who will stay? He told himself he was being unfair. After all, he had chosen to give. No one had forced him, but still something felt wrong. One weekend, he decided to test something small. When Daniel called asking for money to restock the supermarket, Michael replied calmly, "Not now. I'm busy." The line went quiet for a moment before Daniel answered, annoyed. "Busy? I need that money today." Michael said nothing more. The call ended abruptly. 2 days passed. No follow-up. No concern. Susan didn't call at all that week. Clara noticed his silence but misunderstood it. "You're distant lately," she said. "Is work stressing you?" Michael nodded. "Maybe," he replied, even though he knew it wasn't work. It was the weight of realizing that his presence mattered most when his wallet was open. One evening, Michael sat alone in his living room. Lights off, the city humming outside. He thought about his younger self, full of dreams and promises. He remembered telling his family, "When I make it, none of you will suffer." He had kept that promise faithfully, but no one had promised him the same. The realization hurt more than any business loss ever could. He imagined himself broke, struggling, calling them for help. The image felt unrealistic, almost laughable. That thought scared him. Why did it seem impossible that they would help him? His chest tightened as the truth slowly formed. Love that disappears when money disappears is not love at all. That night, Michael made a difficult decision. He would test them, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because he needed peace of mind. He needed the truth to breathe again. He whispered into the quiet room, "I need to know who truly cares." The plan was simple but painful. He would pretend to be in debt. He would remove the one thing everyone depended on and watch what remained. If this made you think deeply, like the video and subscribe because the test is about to begin. Michael didn't announce the lie loudly. He let it arrive slowly, like bad weather. He stopped expensive habits first. No luxury dinners, no spontaneous gifts, no extra transfers. Then one quiet evening, he sat across from Clara at the dining table, his hands folded tightly together. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. Clara looked up, sensing the seriousness in his voice. "You're scaring me," she replied. Michael took a deep breath. "The company is in trouble," he said. "Investors pulled out. Accounts are frozen. I'm in debt." The words felt heavy leaving his mouth. Clara stared at him, waiting for him to laugh, but he didn't. "You're joking, right?" she whispered. Michael shook his head slowly. "I wish I was." Silence filled the room. Clara leaned back in her chair. "So what does this mean for us?" she asked. That question cut deeper than any accusation. Michael studied her face carefully before answering. "It means things will change," he said. "I just don't know how yet." The next day, he told his family. Daniel laughed when he heard. "You? Broke?" he said. "You'll fix it. You always do." Michael replied calmly, "This time is different." Daniel's tone changed instantly. "So what about the supermarket?" he asked. "Suppliers are waiting." Michael swallowed. "I can't help anymore." The line went silent. Then Daniel snapped, "You can't just abandon me like this." Michael ended the call without arguing. Susan reacted with tears, but not for Michael. "The bakery is barely surviving," she cried. "How am I supposed to manage now?" Michael listened quietly, his heart heavy. Not once did she ask how he was holding up. By evening, the calls stopped completely. Michael sat alone in his apartment, phone resting on the table, untouched. The quiet felt loud, painful, confirming. The lie was working, and the truth was revealing itself faster than he expected. The days that followed were some of the quietest Michael had ever known. His phone, once loud and demanding, now stayed silent for hours. Daniel didn't call again. Susan sent one short message, "I hope things get better," then disappeared. The absence hurt more than their anger ever could. Clara was still around, but not really present. She stopped asking about his day and started spending more time on her phone, whispering during calls and stepping out of the room. One evening, she finally spoke what had been hanging in the air. "My parents are worried," she said, sitting on the edge of the couch. "They think this situation is unstable." Michael nodded slowly. "I understand." She looked at him, surprised by his calm. "You're not even trying to reassure me." Michael met her eyes. "I don't want to lie," he replied. That night she didn't stay over. The space she left behind felt colder than loneliness. Michael lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing that when the money disappeared, patience disappeared with it. A week later, Clara came over with a small suitcase. "I think we need space," she said quietly. "Just until things are clear." Michael felt the words settle in his chest like a final answer. "If that's what you need," he said. She hesitated. "You're not fighting for us?" He smiled sadly. "I've been fighting alone for a long time." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't deny it. She left that evening, closing the door softly behind her. Michael sat on the floor long after she was gone, his back against the wall, breathing slowly as the truth became undeniable. Love that depends on comfort is not love, it is convenience. Days later, Daniel finally called, his voice tense. "This whole thing is ruining me," he said. "I didn't sign up for this." Michael replied gently, "Neither did I." The call ended quickly. Susan never called again. No one checked if Michael was eating. No one asked how he was sleeping. The man who once carried everyone was now invisible. Yet beneath the pain, something unexpected began to grow: clarity. The test had answered his question, and though it hurt deeply, Michael felt a strange sense of relief. Michael stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, looking down at the city that never stopped moving, even when his own world felt frozen. Everything had gone exactly as planned, yet the weight in his chest hadn't lifted the way he expected. His assistant knocked gently. "The media team is ready," she said. Michael nodded once. "Let's end this." Within hours, the truth was released. Press statements confirmed the company's strength, new partnerships were announced, and headlines spread fast. Michael's company records its highest growth ever. The fake collapse, the debt, the struggle, it was all exposed as a test. His phone exploded almost immediately. Missed calls, voicemails, messages filled with shock and relief. Clara called first, then Daniel, then Susan. Names that had gone silent for weeks suddenly couldn't wait another second. Michael didn't answer right away. He needed to breathe. He needed to sit with the truth he had already learned before listening to their excuses. Clara showed up at his door that evening, eyes red, voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" she cried. Michael looked at her calmly. "I did tell you. I told you I was struggling." She shook her head. "But I didn't know it wasn't real." Michael replied softly. "And I didn't know your love depended on security." She had no answer. Daniel came next, angry and embarrassed. "You made me look stupid," he said. Michael met his gaze. "I lost everything in your eyes, and you walked away." Daniel sighed heavily. "I was stressed." Michael nodded. "So was I." Susan called, her tone suddenly gentle. "Family should stand together," she said. Michael replied, "Family checks on each other, even when there's nothing to gain." Silence followed. Michael didn't shout. He didn't insult them. He simply told the truth. "I needed to know who cared about me, not my money," he said. "Now I do." The power had shifted, not because he was rich again, but because he finally understood his worth. If you've made it this far, subscribe and like, because the final phase is about healing, not revenge. Michael decided to meet them one at a time. Not to argue, not to punish, but to finally speak without being interrupted by need. He met Daniel first at a quiet cafe. Daniel looked uncomfortable, stirring his drink without meeting Michael's eyes. "I didn't handle things well," Daniel admitted. Michael nodded. "You didn't," he said calmly. "But this isn't about blame. It's about truth." Daniel sighed. "I panicked. I didn't know what to do without your help." Michael leaned forward. "That's the problem. You never tried to know me without it." Daniel swallowed hard. For the first time, he looked ashamed. Michael continued, "I'm still your brother, but I'm no longer your backup plan." He didn't cut him off completely. He simply drew a line. No more constant funding. No more emergencies created by dependence. Daniel left quieter than he arrived, carrying something heavier than anger, self-awareness. Susan's meeting was more emotional. She cried openly, apologizing again and again. "I didn't mean to ignore you," she said. "I was overwhelmed." Michael listened patiently. "I understand stress," he replied. "I lived in it." He told her gently that he would not continue covering her losses, but he would help her learn to manage her business responsibly. "I want you strong," he said. Susan nodded, wiping her tears. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the one she needed. Clara was the hardest. She sat across from him, eyes full of regret. "I left because I was scared," she whispered. Michael looked at her for a long moment. "I was scared too," he said. "But I stayed." She asked quietly, "Can we try again?" Michael shook his head slowly. "I deserve someone who stays when life is uncertain." It wasn't anger that ended them, it was clarity. As they parted, Michael felt pain but also peace. For the first time, his love came with limits. Months passed, and Michael's life slowly settled into a quiet rhythm he had never known before. The noise was gone, the constant calls, the pressure to fix everything, the fear of disappointing everyone. In its place came calm mornings, honest conversations, and space to breathe. He still worked hard, but now he worked with intention, not obligation. His relationship with Daniel and Susan improved in a healthier way. They spoke less often, but when they did, the conversations were real. No money requests, no hidden expectations, just simple check-ins. Michael noticed something important. When he stopped being everyone's solution, they slowly learned how to solve their own problems. And strangely, that made the connection feel more genuine. He wasn't needed anymore, but he was respected. That felt better than being praised for what he could provide. One quiet afternoon, Michael sat in a small cafe, watching people pass by through the window. A woman sat across from him, laughing at something he said. She didn't know his net worth. She didn't care about his company. She only knew him as a man who listened, who spoke honestly, who showed up. Michael realized how light his heart felt in that moment. He thought back to the question that once haunted him: would they stay if I lost everything? Now he knew the answer, and more importantly, he knew himself. He had learned that generosity without boundaries is self-neglect, and love without loyalty is not love at all. He would still help people, but never at the cost of his peace. As he paid for his coffee and stood up, Michael smiled, knowing that he was richer than he had ever been, not because of money, but because of wisdom, self-worth, and the courage to choose himself. If this story touched you, like, comment, and subscribe, because sometimes the greatest success is learning who truly belongs in your life.